Hey folks, we're back from Module 3, the first one, what government does. So, when you woke up today, how many times did government touch your life before you sat down to watch this video? Think about it. The water you drank, the roads you might have drove on, the traffic lights that stopped you or let you pass through an intersection safely, food safety, weather report, emergency services. Today's goal is understanding what government actually does and how it does it. So, let's think about the constant refrain about big government and the problems of big government. The myths around this are, are many. So myth one, government keeps getting bigger and bigger. Myth two, government wastes huge amount of money. Myth three, government employees are lazy and inefficient. Myth four, private sector always does things better. Myth five, we can easily cut government without consequences. In reality, the picture is much more complex. These are all myths. Let's think about what we have. We have one federal government, 50 state governments, and local governments add up to about nearly, 80 or 90,000, depending on the year. Look at all these counties. Look at all the municipalities, townships, school districts, special districts, tribal governments, territorial governments. This leads to about 90,000 ish, 80,000, 90,000 governments. This leads to a lot of intergovernmental requirements, coordination across these, cross jurisdictional coordination for disasters, for water, for transit, for just getting across Orange County. You go through any number of different governments. Government employees, where do they actually work? So we can think about government employees working in the federal government, 2.2 million, and the state government, 5.2 million. And local governments is where the bulk is, 14.2 million employees working in local governments. Most employees work for schools, universities, like me, hospitals, transportation, utilities, public works, fire and rescue. What do these governments actually do? They have several functions across different levels: providing services, regulating behavior, redistributing resources, and protecting our rights. We could think of public health as an example. At the federal level, there are all these alphabet named organizations: the CDC, Food and Drug Administration, National Institutes of Health, um, Health and Human Services. All of these provide grant programs. There's Federal Emergency Response Stockpile, interstate coordination. At the state level, there's state health departments, licensing of hospitals and providers, state public health labs, epidemiology teams. At the local level, there's county and city health departments, school nurses, even inspections at our restaurants, at our homes, in our septic and sewer systems, and community clinics. The challenge is coordinating for a public health response across all of these levels. So, how does government get stuff done? We could think about government doing stuff on its own: direct administration. Government employees provide the service: the public school teacher, the sanitation worker, the code inspector. And we could think about indirect administration, contracted services, food service vendors in public schools, private consulting. In modern reality, the way government often works is a combination of both of these: direct and indirect administration. What tools do our governments have to get these things done? One is contracts. Government by contract has massively increased since the 1980s, and we use it for just about a lot of almost everything nowadays. In some of the cities around us, they may directly provide services like streets and roads and schools, and in other cities, everything is completely contracted out. Um, Public Works is a good example: contracted road and bridge construction, outsourced IT services, contracted food services and custodial work, engineering and architectural consulting. The key question among us around contracts and government by contract, this indirect government, is how do you maintain accountability when somebody else is doing the work? There's benefits and risks to contracting. Benefits are specialized expertise, cost savings, flexibility in staffing, access to latest technology. The risks are loss of direct control. If you're contracting out with a private company, their bottom line, like I said in our last video, is profit. And so you have to balance the kind of profit motive versus the public interest, accountability gaps, and you are dependent on contractors. Another tool is grants, and grants encourage action. Government provides funding to encourage things that might not otherwise happen. So, community development block grants for cities and counties, Head Start for childcare, FEMA preparedness grants, Title I education to high poverty school districts. This is the way the federal government, through its grant power, through its ability to provide funds, can shape local priorities. Regulations. These are the rules that shape our daily lives. This is most likely what you come in contact with every day. Think if you can actually do anything at all without some sort of governmental regulation impacting it. Even just breathing the air, whether you're outside in an air quality management district or inside in some sort of clean air environment, there are rules that affect your driving down the street. You have to have your car inspected in California to make sure that it meets emission standards. Food is inspected that you ate, the water that you drink. All of these things are regulations, and they are tools and rules that shape our daily lives. Another tool is tax expenditures. This is the tax code that is being used to encourage behavior. It encourages us to buy homes, to get married, to have children. These are all things that encourage behavior through the tax code. Loan programs. Government as lender and guarantor. Student loans for college, small business loans, housing loans. Um, Things that connect to our public infrastructure, our local governments. Not only us getting student loans, but our local governments can get loans for a number of different things. What this really means in reality is that there's this kind of government by proxy. Government is working through federal employees, state employees, and local employees, through private contractors and nonprofit organizations, through grantees and loan recipients and regulated entities. All of these things work together to achieve that sense of governance that we talked about in the previous lecture. Why it matters? Accountability, first and foremost. When something goes wrong, who's responsible? The contractor who failed to perform, or the city government agency that hired them? Is it the elected official who approved the contract? Where does accountability lie? And that's a real challenge, maintaining democratic accountability in a complex system. Trust and effectiveness question. So public perception versus reality. Common complaints, right? Government is too big, it wastes money, it doesn't work. Most services that people value are government provided. And government works through private partners to try to reduce those costs. And problem often comes from the coordination needs that we just talked about. So let's think about a disaster coordination example, a hurricane response. So FEMA coordinates and funds response. State level has its emergency management activities. The local level, the city and county governments run shelters, road clearance, evacuations. Nonprofits come into play to help out and run shelters and manage cases. And private utility companies come in to restore power, remove debris. So how do you ensure all of that works effectively? That is what the challenge of governance is. That is the challenge that we face in public administration. So what's this mean? So when you are a public administrator, when you are going out there to work, you need to learn about these different multiple levels of government and how to coordinate across them, how to manage contracts and your partnerships effectively, how to navigate accountability relationships that are often complex and sometimes cumbersome and hard to understand, and balance efficiency with democratic values, and be able to work with a number of different stakeholders: public, private, nonprofit, multiple levels of government, neighboring governments, etc. So, modern public administration is about managing networks, not just hierarchies. So, where does that leave us? Government is larger and more complex than most people realize. Most government work happens at those state and local levels. That's where the employees are. Government uses multiple tools to achieve its goals. Modern governance involves extensive partnerships and contracts. Accountability is a challenge in these complex systems. Understanding that complexity is key for effective public service. All right. See you next time.